I'm going through a very difficult and stressful legal case.
I guess you've challenged a system that is going in a certain direction.
There's a lot of corruption and there's a lot of intimidation.
Religious freedom, for example, is really important in this country.
I can't see this and not say anything.
So now they're not only attacking your future career, they're attacking your current one that you've done for 7 years. Hello and welcome to Together, the podcast, a God TV production where we spend time getting to know some special guests. Amy, welcome to the show. It's a privilege to have you with us. Just for everyone at home, Amy, you know, we've not known each other very long, but I reached out to you a few months ago.
That's right,
and I was just really touched by your case and what you're going through, both as a Christian and the fact that you're facing into some, political challenges as well. I'm going to say that I think you're very brave.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
You're welcome. and just welcome, welcome to God TV.
Yeah, thank you for having me and thank you for reaching out to me a couple of months ago. That was really supportive. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So people might not know who you are, Amy, and rather than us plunging straight deep into the really serious stuff and everything that you're going through, I mean, just who are you? Where did you grow up? Just share a bit about who Amy Gallagher is.
Yeah, so I've always lived in around kind of South London area. I grew up in Downham, which is part of South London, and now I live in Orpington.
We share a home there.
Yeah, we do. I know lots of people come from that neck of the woods. It's quite a small world, actually.
Yeah.
So I grew up I have a younger sister. My family wasn't Christian, particularly. I got first introduced to Christianity through my primary school, actually. I went to a Catholic primary school, even though we weren't Catholic. My parents just wanted me to go to a good school.
It's so interesting. My mum and dad did the same thing, Christian school.
But I'm glad that they did.
Yes.
I had a really good experience in this school. It's probably the best educational experience I've ever had, really.
Wow.
There's my last 2 years of primary school were in a Catholic primary school, and I was very, very happy there. And I just got a sense of experiencing a different way of just the teachers and the children were just different. There was something about the atmosphere and it was very welcoming, and obviously I got introduced to the stories of the Bible, and I just loved it. And I was from then on, I think I always had a kind of faith or an interest in Christianity, at least, which I kept private, I think, for a long time. But then through my kind of teenage years, it kind of something I sort of was a bit lukewarm about. I'd kind of go in and out of it a bit and return to it and then sort of move away from it. And but it became something that became more. It has become more important to me as I've got older and older. And
Who's Amy the teenager then? What were you into?
What was I into?
Like?
I was very quiet. It was when I was in school, quite shy, quite conscientious. I was quite creative. I liked literature and art and design and that kind of thing. So that's what led me. I initially went to university to study literature, and I loved reading and books and imaginary worlds and that sort of thing. That was interesting. But I think by the end of that, I was kind of sick of... I wanted to connect with people. I felt like it was, although I loved it, I didn't feel like I was helping people. I wasn't, it's quite a sort of selfish thing in some ways too. Although art and literature is wonderful, it's, I felt like I wanted to get out into the world and connect with people. And also around that time, my dad had some ill health, and I got a kind of experience of going into hospitals and caring and helping people at the most difficult points in their life. So after my degree in literature, I said, right, I want to do something completely different. I decided to go into nursing. I loved it. Oh, it was so wonderful, and I loved the training, and I loved meeting other nurses. I loved nurses are just the most amazing group of people. All healthcare professionals are, but I ended up specialising in mental health because I kind of was always interested in psychology and especially in my first degree, kind of thinking about the mind a little bit, and I found that I was quite good at listening and talking with people and connecting with people. So yeah, I qualified as a nurse, and I loved it. And I've been nursing in mental health nursing for 7 years, and I'm still doing it now, and still love it and still learning. And I think in terms of my Christian faith, I've had lots of influences, particularly in nursing. It's grown stronger because you see people going through really difficult times and all sorts of things, and you see how, for me, Christianity gave me so much more strength to be able to stay secure and strong when you're going through difficult times. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I don't know if that I don't know how that comes across.
No, it's a very nice nutshell.
Yeah,
it's a very nice nutshell. Do you think there was a point where you gave your life to Christ? Like, was there a moment, or was it a slow burn? Like, is there a moment when you went, I think, I want to live for Jesus, or I'm going to be a Christian, whatever your language is for that?
Yeah, I think it was. I think working hospital wards, and I think I came across a lot of nurses who were Christian, and I didn't even know they were Christian. I noticed there was something about them. They had a kind of a calm, a peacefulness. They had patience, and they just seemed to have this like inner warmth or happiness. And I was like, what have they got? What have they got that I haven't got? Like, I could see they had a glow, and I was like, what is that? And then I noticed all the people that I sort of thought that had this glow, they all turned out to be Christians, and I was like, that's it. That's what they've got. And that really reconnected me with my introduction to Christianity. And then it really is something about that where then I really connected to it. And then I went back and I started going to church more, and I started realizing that there was something that only Christ or only God can give you that I was missing out on. I had something missing, and I could see that other people had it. And I was like, okay, I need to work on this.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say you've got that now? That piece of Jesus. I guess.
I think so. Hopefully, I mean, not always. I'm not perfect, but yeah, it is something that when I something that I can come back to and think, okay, I know I need to return to that place, that peacefulness that I found, and I know I can return to it, and it's what it helps me in my work, but it helps me in my life, and it is the source of most of my happiness and much of my ability to help people and connect with people and put things into perspective. And I think in church as well, it's become more important to me, and having that space to go somewhere and think about, reflect on the week and reflect on the bigger picture, and then you can come away and kind of recharge. And that's definitely something that's become very important to me. It's an important space for reflection, but to have a eternal thinking, because you can get stuck. And for everybody listening at home, I think when we talk about what you've been through and the journey that you're on, I mean, you would need Jesus in this journey. Yes.
Because I just think you're so brave. And
thank you.
To take this on, if I'm honest. And Amy, like we really just want to get to know you in a nutshell, because I think Amy Gallagher isn't this story. This is just part of your testimony. And so I just wanted people at home to know, how did you grow up, and who are you? And do you love Jesus? And so it's nice to get to know you a little bit as a person. But we are here on the podcast to take a deep dive into what I would consider maybe like controversial subjects, or subjects that are maybe a little bit political, but to do with that with some grace and mercy. So Amy, like, why are you here? Like, what are we here to talk about today?
So Well, I'm going through a very difficult and stressful legal case at the moment, and it is partly related to my faith, actually, and an element of it is religious discrimination.
Yeah.
So obviously, part of working as a nurse in mental health, I realised that I wanted to become a psychotherapist, which is kind of like a talking therapist or a counsellor, if people don't know what that is. Because as a nurse, you do lots of aspects of mental health. So you do medicine, you do management, you do all sorts of things. But for me, it was connecting with someone and giving them a space to think, and a space for calm, and a space to be understood that I really enjoyed. So it was 4 years ago now that I enrolled to train to be a psychotherapist. So it's quite a long training. The training that I chose is a 4-year training. And I worked really hard as a nurse, so I come from quite a working class background, so I don't have much money, so I spent a lot of my time as a nurse saving up for tuition fees to do this training. And I enrolled the Tavistock-on-Portman NHS Trust to train as a psychotherapist, which is one of the main, people don't know, it's one of the main sort of trainings for psychotherapies, particularly in London.
Has it got a name? Is there a type of psychotherapy you were studying?
So like psychodynamic psychotherapy. Okay. So that kind of focuses on kind of looking at people's pasts and how their past has shaped them and how their environment has shaped them, and sort of certain narratives that they form in their head, and so kind of thinking about where that comes from and helping them understand how certain events may have shaped their life and their worldview, and reflecting on how it affects their behaviour now. And
so the context is you're a nurse.
Yeah.
You've decided you want to progress your career. Yeah. So you're probably pretty excited about that, right?
Yeah, I was.
You've saved up money to go and pay for it, and so you're already in the NHS, I guess, as a nurse. Yeah. And you're taking further education in, I guess, an NHS educational institution.
Yeah, that's right. That's
called the Tavistock.
Yeah. So I did my first 2 years there, and I saw some patients as part of the training. You have to see patients, and that all went really well, and I graduated with a good grade. So I did the first 2 years, and I got a postgraduate diploma. And I enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you. And then I returned to do the final 2 years to qualify. And that's where some of the issues that I've come here to talk about started happening. Some of the things started being expressed that I wasn't too happy about. And it happened from quite early on, actually, which was, I was really excited about, finishing this training and getting going with my career. And then I noticed that some of the lectures and the seminars and some of the ways in which they were talking were very divisive, very politicised, talking about certain groups of people, particularly in the areas of race and gender, in a way that felt negative, actually, and divisive, and some of the ideas that they were expressing were not balanced. There wasn't a discussion. It was kind of like, this is the truth, or this is the fact, and I wasn't too happy about that.
Have you got any examples?
Yeah, so there was a lecture that I went to. It was about race and racism, and they made very generalised statements about certain races. They were talking about black people being emotional and white people being all being racist, and I was really not comfortable with talking about groups in this way. Like, I've always seen people as individuals, and that, to me, that comes from Christianity. That idea of that we're all unique, and
and God made each of us, and He knows every hair on our head.
Yeah, exactly. How we're made in the image of God, all of us, and we're made exactly how we're supposed to be, and we're all loved equally by God. And they also spoke about Christianity in this lecture, which firstly, I mean, I wasn't even expecting religion to be a subject on this course, because it's a psychotherapy course, but they spoke about Christianity and said that essentially it was a racist religion. They said that it was a European.
So just back up.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah, they said that Christianity is, well, firstly they said it's I hate even talking like this. It just makes me feel uncomfortable. No, it's not your fault.
But I think it's important that we share it, because I think people hear of this, Amy.
Yeah.
They but it's an abstract concept of Christian persecution in the UK is well, that doesn't really happen.
Yeah. So they were talking about how Christianity is a white religion, so it's a religion that white people follow. And then at the end of the lecture, I sort of said, I noticed you singled out Christian. I felt like I had to speak up because I feel like this is what being Christian is. Like you have to be open about your faith, and if you're hiding, it's you've got to speak the truth. That's what Christ teaches. So I very politely, I just sort of said, I noticed you spoke about Christianity and as singled that religion out in particular, and it seemed to be that you were speaking about it in quite a negative way, and I guess I'm curious about why that is. And the lecturer said, well, we see Christianity as being responsible for racism because it's European. And I was just shocked. I was expecting her to be a bit more apologetic or a bit more understanding, but I was just very shocked that was being said.
Or perhaps more nuanced as well in her answer.
Yeah, very. And this is. Firstly, it's just not true. I mean, that's a
Judeo-Christian faith. It's from the Middle East.
It's from the Middle East, and it's practiced by all people all around the world.
Yes, it is.
And it's just a very confusing statement. I don't know why it's being singled out as being racist, but like I said, to me, my whole experience of Christianity up until this point is that it's probably the most inclusive, unifying thing I've ever experienced. Remember when I went to church for the first time, and it just feeling like a place that's welcome to everyone. And the Bible teaches us a lot about prejudice and about not judging a person. The parable of the Good Samaritan, that not judging a person by the particular tribe or where they're from, and the Bible talks a lot about everybody being equal. So I was just, where is this coming from? And I was really shocked. I knew that some aspects of the NHS were becoming more politicised, but I didn't think that they would go this far, and it was a shock, and it just felt very negative and hateful, and I just thought, what's this about?
So just to check, just to go back, so the statement is Christianity is responsible for racism
because
and
it's European. Yeah.
Which astounds me that somebody would say that, but equally, like, let me check in. We're not saying that racism doesn't exist,
no, of course not.
Yeah, and we're not saying that maybe you do have to be aware of unconscious bias, for example.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
you would accept that, right?
Yeah.
But it's the fact that this statement in itself seems to be
biased.
racist.
Yeah, to be racist and to be biased.
Because you're singling out Christians.
Yeah.
And saying all Christians are racist.
Yeah.
Which in itself is racist.
Yeah. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you said something.
Yeah, so I said, I challenged this, and then she said this statement, and then I felt I kind of went quiet, and I was quite surprised by this, and I didn't know what to do. And then after that lecture finished, I just sort of, well, I did my bit. I pushed back, and I should be proud of myself for that, and I thought it was important to do that. You stood
up for your faith and your beliefs, which not many people would, Amy.
Yeah, and I, sort of, should I have done that? Shouldn't I have done that? And then I thought maybe that's just a one-off. That was just a, but actually what I found is as I went along the course, more of these politicised, divisive ideas kept coming up. More stuff about race and about Christianity as well. There was some reading material that was sent round, and in it that said about that the Bible can cause people to be racist because it uses the words light and dark, and that causes people in their minds to think of sin. People, it was just really and again, it was Christianity being singled out and the Bible being singled out, and the statements that they were making about the Bible would actually be true of most religions. Most religions use the terms light and dark, and actually it's used in all sorts of ways. So it really felt like, why is Christianity being attacked like this? What is this about? And it did make me feel, and because I'd spoken up in this lecture and sort of said, I'm a Christian, I started to feel like, am I even welcome in this course? What this is going to be quite hard for me, because I can't see this and not say anything. Like, I have to. It feels to me like, no, I can't not do anything. I've got to say something.
And so with the examples you're giving, did they provide, evidence of this? Like, you're saying the Bible's this, and here's a study we've done, and
no, that's what was also. It was very blanket statements that were not thought through, and not. I'm quite an open-minded person. I have no issue with people having a different perspective to me, or even having their own views on religion, or criticizing something, or showing the good, or the good points or the bad points. But this felt it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like I've listened to discussions between Christians and atheists, and intellectual discussions, and I love that. Actually, I like hearing different views, but this felt like an attack. It didn't feel like a discussion. It felt it just felt like discrimination. Actually, it felt quite bigoted, and like I said, it wasn't nuanced or balanced, and I just felt quite uncomfortable, actually.
Or researched, or evidence.
Or evidence, or
so it doesn't hold up in an academic setting.
No, it's these clinicians, the people that were putting forth these ideas, they weren't historians or theologians. They weren't coming from a place of deep knowledge, and that's what troubled me as well. How you could speak with such certainty about things that they didn't seem to know very much about. So I was very disappointed. I was really upset, because, like I said, this is a profession I'd been working my way towards for ages, and I was passionate about it. I loved it. And then I just felt so disappointed. I was like, what do I do? Can I stay in this profession? How am I going to be a Christian and continue on this course? And if I'm not welcome in this profession, or this profession seems to have an intolerance.
So you're questioning your career decisions and all the money you've spent.
All sorts of things. It was really stressful. It was very, very difficult. And I had a sort of back and forth with my mum. What do I do? I thought about quitting. I thought about all sorts of things. And then I sort of returned to the Bible, and I, reminded myself about the importance of doing the right thing and speaking the truth, and being brave. And I thought, okay, something's happening that's not right, and I think I think I should do something about that. I think I should do it properly. I need to be careful. But I thought long and hard about it, and I decided to make a formal complaint, just to say, this is what's been said, and it's actually not. It doesn't line up with the Equalities Act, because you're not supposed to discriminate people. You're supposed to be welcoming and not, single groups out.
Yeah.
I made a complaint, and.
So is this after the course material, or were there some things that happened to you personally before that?
So there was. I'm trying to think. So I got called into because when I disagreed with this lecture, and I said, I don't agree with these ideas about Christianity.
Which you should be encouraged to do in an educational institution.
Yeah, and I was expecting that they might apologise to me or write to me and say, well, sorry if you were hurt. But what actually happened was I got called into a meeting with the course lead, and there was a kind of sense essentially that I was wrong, that I'd done something wrong, I'd spoken inappropriately, and that I shouldn't have done. And I said, I've been told that my religion is racist. You've made statements about certain groups that I'm not comfortable with, particularly based on the race, and that I see people as individuals, and I've always believed in not judging a person by the colour of their skin. And they said, well, no, this is what they sort of doubled down, essentially said, no, this is what we teach here. And I just couldn't believe it.
What's the this? What is they saying they teach?
These ideas. They said
Okay.
these ideas, because I was saying, is these ideas just the ideas of this one particular lecturer? And she says, oh, no, that is what we teach here at the Tavistock. And I was just, wow. I was shocked. And I just, I remember thinking, I can't do this then. I said, how do I continue? And that's when, after that, then I made the complaint, because that was a space that I was expecting at least some compromise, at least some sense that they could see things from my perspective. But the tone was much more that I was in the wrong. And yeah, that was upsetting. And
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, then I made this complaint, and they said, they were going to look into it and they were going to do an investigation. And I felt a bit kind of, okay, that's good.
And I imagine your complaint, you've not just drafted it on the back of a napkin.
No.
Like, knowing you a little bit and people at home don't, I imagine you put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, I tried to
reference
the Equalities
the
Act.
Policies and the Equalities Act.
Yeah, exactly. I tried not to be too emotional. I tried to just lay out what was said, why I felt it was wrong and why it was in keeping with
what was the change you were hoping for from that?
So I was hoping that they might just understand my perspective and say, oh, sorry, and then that would have ended at that point. If they just said, oh, sorry, or, maybe we went a bit too far, we shouldn't have said those things. We want to make sure that you feel welcome on this course.
Yeah.
And if it happens again, let us know. Then I would have been like, okay, fine, that's great, thank you.
And perhaps they can hold an organisational view that's not the same as all their students.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be okay too.
Yeah. Everyone's entitled to their own view, but that's not what happened. So essentially, they did an investigation, and they sent an investigation report to me about what they found, and essentially they sort of again doubled down on some of the ideas. They said, they sort of said all sorts of highly politicised things about race in the report, and said that this is what we encourage students to think about, and that essentially they saw it as an issue with my ability to learn, that I wouldn't accept these ideas. Which felt really patronising, and it wasn't very nice.
And I guess you had thought about them.
Yeah, of course.
Like if someone says you're white, so you're racist,
or
you're Christian, so you're racist.
Yeah.
There has to be an element of self-reflection.
Yeah, of course. And I did doubt myself. I sort of, hang on, what have I ever said or done anything?
Yeah, could I be? Am I?
Yeah, of course. Because, but so it was quite maddening to sort of have to sort of justify things which I thought were quite obvious. That it's obvious that this is wrong, isn't it? But it didn't seem that it was obvious in this institution. So, yeah, it was very difficult. And yeah, just from that point onwards, I kept being singled out, and essentially, these ideas came up again. And I said, I've already expressed that I'm not happy with these ideas, so why are they coming up again? And then I was told that they didn't like the tone of my voice when I spoke, and they raised a student conduct policy against me, which is kind of the first part of trying to remove someone from the course. So from this point onwards, I really felt like, gosh, okay, I'm really being targeted here. This is...
So who rose the conduct policy, and why did they do that?
The course lead.
Okay.
So she's the kind of head of the course. I was in a seminar that was kind of called a review of the term, where you're supposed to sort of discuss how you feel like the term has been going. And she sort of said, is there anything that anyone hasn't liked so far? Anything that anybody's found annoying or they don't like? And I said... Well, yes, actually, there's been some more recent reading material that says ideas which I consider to be discriminatory towards Christians and racially divisive. And I've already, explained that that these ideas go against the Equalities Act, which they do. So why is this still happening? I'm not very happy about that. And essentially, she said that she sent an email to me a couple of days after saying that I'd sought to have an argument with her, and it was inappropriate, and she said that I showed that I lacked maturity, and it was a very personal attack on me in this email, and she said that I'd caused distress to others by challenging these views, and that she was raising a student conduct policy against me, which is the first part of sort of removing someone from the course. So I just could not believe it. I was devastated at this point. It really started to affect my health. I wasn't sleeping. I was tearful.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
must have been really stressful.
Yeah, it was really horrible. And I was working as a nurse at the time and trying to manage work, and my work can be quite demanding and emotional, and then having to manage all of this was really tough. I just couldn't believe it was happening. I was thinking, why? I've just been really reasonable here, and I'm actually in it, trying to help out the organisation. I'm saying, look, you're doing and saying and doing things which you shouldn't be. Like, surely you would want to know that. Surely you'd want to learn from that. But what ended up happening was that I sort of got singled out and targeted and bullied for it. And that was really painful. And I had lots of feelings of anger and,
I can see you feeling them now. I'm like, don't go back there. No. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah, it was not a good time. And that I did have to draw on my faith a lot, because that the Bible teaches us to try and be peaceful in ourselves, and Jesus talks on the Sermon on the Mount about turning the other cheek and not being drawn into arguments and rising above it. And I could feel myself. I found that hard, because I felt like I wanted to give them a piece of my mind, basically, right. Which is not nice. It's not nice to have those feelings of anger, and but I was able. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just stay calm as possible. But I do have to say something. I have to keep, because this is wrong, because I'm being bullied here. So that's when I started. I got some help. I sought some advice from. Luckily, I have a friend who knows some people who work in the law, and they were able to help me draft a complaint and think very carefully about it, because I was feeling like they might try to, stop me from entering my career that I want to do. But it was a really difficult time. It was, it brought up a lot of my own weaknesses and my own, I felt quite fragile, and I was thinking, why is this happening to me? And it was really, I had lots of sleepless nights, and it was really hard, and it felt very unfair, and I felt, it was really difficult. And essentially there was more in the organisation. There's more sort of investigations going on, and they were not listening to me, and they weren't apologising, or they weren't even compromising. I would have been I would have even minded if they said, we can see your point of view. This is our private, personal view, but of course you're allowed to, of course, as a Christian, I would understand that you would be offended, or what. But there was no meeting me halfway.
Yeah. So it seems they asked your opinion about something, and then when you shared it, it wasn't okay.
Yeah, exactly. That
do you know what the okay opinion was? Do you know what they wanted you to say?
Just to agree, I think.
And what you're agreeing to, because I guess we would call it and being anti-racist instead of just racist.
Yeah, so
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so it's a very narrow view of what it means to not be racist. They want you to express it in the way that they want it to be expressed. So all my views come from my Christian faith, really. So I can't not see the world in that way. That's kind of...
because it's your faith.
It's fundamental.
We have freedom of faith in this country.
Yeah, exactly. And they were explaining... they were saying saying these ideas you're making about certain groups are generalising, and they're racist, essentially. And they were saying that we're what they call an anti-racist organisation, and that these ideas are what they call anti-racism. But I was saying...
So how are you supposed to act? What were some of the things they asked you to do?
You just have to... I guess they were saying you have to interrogate whiteness. I don't even know what that means. And when I asked them what that mean, they didn't even know what it meant. And they were saying that that you have to If you have a patient who's of a different ethnicity or race to you, you have to factor in the idea that you've got kind of power over them because you're white. And I said, but they might not think that.
No.
I said, everybody has a race. When you see patients, when you're doing work with individuals, everybody's unique because everybody's worldview is really different and unique. So I've always been taught as a nurse and as a clinician to not make assumptions about what the person thinks or feels, especially based on their skin colour or any aspect of their identity.
Surely a core tenet of psychotherapy
Yeah.
is, you might deal with people's projections
Yeah.
about you,
Yeah.
but you shouldn't pre-assume those,
No,
surely.
no. So there is something to be said about being sensitive about racial differences, and people may have experienced racism, and having a cultural sensitivity. See, I think that's all really important, and being aware of your own biases. But from what I was seeing is that essentially they were encouraging you to be biased and encouraging you to assume certain stereotypes about people, that how they would think about me and what they think. And I was like, but I don't know, they're an individual.
Yeah.
And the first part is when you enter into psychotherapy with someone, the first couple of sessions are mainly you just listening to them because you're just trying to understand where they're at and what's going on with them and how they think. And you don't go into it sort of thinking like you know it all, because you can't.
It's the opposite.
Yeah. So I was just really confused, and a lot of these ideas were being pushed under the banner of equality and diversity, and I was thinking, but you're not allowing diversity of views, and you're not treating people equally. So it's like, this is crazy. This is a bit crazy. So it was really hard.
It's like we want to be a tolerant organisation.
Yeah.
As long as you act the way we tell you to act.
Yeah.
Or think what we ask you to think.
Yeah, and I can't because I'm a Christian. I can't give that up. Like it's not. It's my fundamental. So yeah, it was a very difficult time for me, and essentially it got to the point where I was feeling a lot of hostility from staff, and I felt like they were very angry that I'd made a complaint, and these were the people that were judging my progress on the course, so they're in a position of power.
Right.
And it feels really scary that those people don't like you and there's a hostility towards you because you've made a complaint. So you're in a very powerless, sort of vulnerable position.
What's your evidence that they were, treating you badly?
Yeah, so I was having emails sent to me essentially that were kind of personal attacks on me.
Right.
So I was told that I'd traumatized people by disagreeing. And then one of the lecturers even went so far as to write to the Nursing and Midwifery Council, which is like my regulatory body as a nurse, essentially saying that she had doubts as to whether I should be allowed to work as a nurse. She said I'd shown that I was incapable of working with a range of diverse patients. And that,
so that's scary. So now they're not only attacking your future career, they were attacking your current one that you've done for 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Nursing Midwifery Council had to look into it, and they had to get in contact with my management on my work, which was horrible. Yeah. Because these are really...
You're already stressed. You've been trying to keep them separate somewhat.
Yeah, and accusations of, essentially they were accusing me of being racist because I wouldn't go along with their version of anti-racism, which seemed to be that you have to agree that Christianity is racist and you have to agree that to these certain stereotypes about certain groups, and to be accused of...
I can't believe this is true. Every time you say it, I'm like, as if...
I know, I can't believe it's true. It's like a nightmare.
I know that, because I am into my politics, I understand this is as part of critical race theory, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it just seems like it's gone too far.
It's gone too far.
Like, I just don't think educational institutions... should be closing down opinion and telling you what to think. There should be places where you explore your ideas and use evidence and experience to, expand your knowledge and, maybe, you might think that at the end of the course, but you shouldn't be pigeonholed into that way of thinking.
Yeah, it still feels shocking to me now. And I know people think you're making this up, and I'm really not. And it It was horrible, and I still don't understand to this day what drove them to act in that way. I don't know if they felt threatened, or they were scared, or they didn't like that I'd made a complaint, or they didn't want to admit that they were wrong. Sometimes when we're all wrong at certain points of our life. When we learn from mistakes, we feel, oh yeah, that I used to think that, but now I think this, and I've learned from that. But maybe there was something about that they felt that they couldn't do that, that their pride got.
So where are you at now? Because I guess you had to carry on going to college, like university, to finish. Did you finish it? Did they allow you to finish?
Yeah, so I finished all the lectures and the seminars, and I part of the training is doing clinical work with patients. And I completed a clinical work with one patient, which was really positive, actually. Despite all this was going on, I managed to maintain a good experience.
Which is unbelievable in itself. So you're doing nursing, you're dealing with all the complaints, you're trying to do a degree, and you're giving someone therapy at the same time.
Yeah, and that was a good experience, actually, working with a patient. But in order to qualify, I needed to do more clinical work with patients, and they stopped me from seeing one of the patients.
So you can't get your hours in.
Exactly. And they just said that they felt that I was unsafe and I was unprofessional, and I've still to this day I'm saying, what have I said that you think is inappropriate? And they can't tell me. They just said, oh, your tone of voice was inappropriate. And I said, well, can you explain that to me? And they just said, that's what we decided.
Your tone? My
tone of voice. So so they said, we don't mind. There wasn't anything you said was wrong, but it was the way that you expressed it.
Okay.
So it
sounds really childish.
Yeah, it is. It's very petty, and it's been very hard not to get drawn into that pettiness and to try to maintain I know. Yeah, it's really hard. It's been testing, but these things are sent to try us. That's what I have been thinking. Why is this happening to me, God? Why? How do you want me to? I wanted to help people. I wanted to go into this profession to help people, and why has this happened? But something that's really helped me all the way through has been this has come my way for a reason.
Yeah.
And all the way along this process, whenever I've needed help, somehow the right person has come into my life, and this is how God works. I think
so good.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. Everything sort of fell into place. I met someone who knew someone that could help me, and then I got introduced to someone else who said, we can help you with that, and then someone else said, we're going to help you raise money for your legal costs, and everything sort of. I've had lots of support from people because, I went to the media because I needed to get some exposure to help me raise money for my case, and luckily I've had so many amazing donations.
We haven't talked about your case, so that's the next step. So you did finish the course?
No, I'm still kind of suspended. They said they were going to do an investigation into me. That was a year ago, and they haven't done it. So they said,
what have you got left to finish?
So I've got to do more patient clinical work. Okay. That's all I've got to do. But is there anywhere else you can do that? Yeah, I'm thinking of that. If anyone's listening and you can get Amy some clinical hours. Yeah, what they've done is they've sort of strung me along a bit. So if I'd have known it would have taken this long, I would have thought about going elsewhere. But they said, we're just going to do a small investigation into you, and if that's okay, you can see another patient. And they keep saying they'll do it, and I keep saying no, it hasn't happened yet. When are you going to do this? And then they drag it out, and it's just been, they just have not been helpful at all, and it's been very difficult, and it's felt almost. Are they giving you your money back? No. See, this is the thing. No. Either let you finish or give you your money back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I guess is it modular? So do you get to keep some of your qualifications? Yeah, some of it is, I think, so that I could potentially go elsewhere and say, look, I've done this. I just need this last leg of this training. And do you still want to do it? Has it affected, Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Have you still got a passion to... It's been... The passion is still there because as a nurse, I still am able to connect with patients and help them. And that's always wonderful. And that's still a privilege to do that. But I worry about the direction the profession is going in. And hopefully with this case, I can maybe change some minds. But what has been amazing since I've been in the media about my case and gotten support from it. I've had a range of loads of professionals, particularly in psychotherapy, but in other areas of healthcare, reach out to me and say, I'm seeing these ideas being pushed onto me as well. You're not the only one. Thank you so much for speaking up, and I'm so sorry you've gone through this. And so there is a lot of people who are concerned, and they're very mild-mannered, very lovely people who say, I've worked with a diverse range of people all my life, and I don't know why these areas, these specific cultural elements are becoming so politicized and so rigid, and why it's become so divisive, and that's not what I've been taught to do. So there are people out there who have been very understanding, and I've had a lot of support from Christians as well, and Christian Legal Centre as well have reached out to me and have helped me with legal advice and support. So yeah, it's been an awful experience and a wonderful experience in some ways. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I can just imagine Amy of a few years ago worrying about getting kicked off a course that you've paid for, that you long to do, feeling like your ideas have been crushed. Yeah. And then God bringing people into your life where, you seem to me, I'm not frightened at all speaking to you. You seem mild-mannered, courteous, thoughtful, considered, and well, it's more than nice, Amy. I think it's true, and I guess you've challenged a system that is going in a certain direction, and so really, on behalf of anyone that's Christian, and you are doing something that's brave and will represent other people's views. Yeah. And now I see an Amy that's here that's like really considered it, thought about it, and now tell everyone at home sort of what's happening now, because you've talked about getting legal help, but it's a bit more serious than that, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's still I have served court documents to them, so I'm now involved in a court case essentially. There'll be a sort of negotiation. I'm in the process of that, so I don't quite know what direction that will go in. It's a very long process and it's very difficult. And I've been crowdfunding for legal fees, and the support I've got with that has been
which you've done great. I don't know if these figures are accurate, but you've raised over 150k on one site and 8k on the other site. And that's I imagine it's expensive, right? You're not driving around in a Ferrari, right?
No, all that money is very safely in my bank account, just because legal cases cost a fortune, and I didn't. It's such a difficult process to go through. It amazes me that anybody ever pursues justice, because it should be something that we should all do if there's a wrong, that needs to be corrected. But it's so difficult.
Oh yeah, you can buy your way through court.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of corruption, and there's a lot of intimidation, and there's financial intimidation because it costs so much, and it's just an extraordinarily stressful thing to go through. And you think, hang on, I'm just trying to do the right thing here. Why is it so difficult? Yeah. But the generosity of people that have given their money to help me has been amazing. I'm still sort of getting my head around it. It's like, it's not real. It's like, wow, this is amazing that the support that's out there, people that don't know me.
Well, the Bible majors on, getting your heart right, and also that, the way we use your money is, wherever your treasure is, there your heart is. Yeah. So I think it's, especially when Christians give to this sort of thing, you've got to think, they've probably prayed about it, they've considered it, and they do think that religious freedom, for example, is really important in this country, and they're putting their heart with you, not
amazing.
just their money, right? And I do think, I don't say the amounts because I think the money's impressive. I say the amounts because I think it shows the gravity and how much support you have got, and so what happens now? Where are you at with the court case?
So we had to. So some of the bullying and harassment continued even after we served court documents. So we had to extend it to include all of that new kind of bullying and harassment that happened, and we've got we've reached out to someone in the field of psychotherapy who's written a sort of testimony explaining that some of the ideas that were being expressed do not represent psychotherapy. So I've got an experienced person in the field to sort of speak,
academically.
An academic, an kind of expert witness who's very well qualified and says actually, a student should be allowed to disagree with these ideas. So that's really fantastic. We've reached out to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, and we're waiting to hear back from them. There's still a kind of external investigation going on at the Tavistock into bullying harassment, so I'm waiting for the outcome of that.
Aren't they famous for something else as well?
Yeah. The Tavistock is very infamous. It's such a shame. It was a really well-renowned institution, but they've come under a lot of, rightly so, scrutiny around their gender identity service, which has found to have huge concerns around safeguarding of children and unlicensed medicines and
so let's not talk about that. But if you're listening and if you're watching, have a Google of the Tavistock, and what you'll see, I think, is not to over politicize things, but you'll see a very left leaning, definitely an ideology. It's its own theology, not just around faith and race, but also around gender and sexuality.
Yeah, and it's medicine should be evidence-led. It shouldn't be political in either direction, any direction. It should be about what's best for the patient in front of you and what do we know is the best possible treatment. And whatever your personal view is as a clinician should be put to the side. You're supposed to be neutral. And what we're seeing is, ideological ideas, political ideas informing care, which is not supposed to happen. And
it's the wrong way around.
Yeah, it's totally, and it's really concerning. So, yeah.
So what's next with the legal case? I mean, have you got a court date? Do they get a chance to respond?
So they've filed their defence, which I don't know that I can talk about. So
that's okay. So they've filed a defence.
Yeah,
they've said something.
They've said, they've sort of kind of tried to.
They'll have mischaracterised you and the situation.
They've tried to minimise what they've done, essentially.
But you've got evidence, right?
Yeah, everything I can back up with evidence. So it's, we'll be having a cost hearing at some point to work out kind of how much it's going to cost, which will be
who pays if someone.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's a lot of technical steps we have to go through, and then at a point there'll be some kind of negotiation process, and what happens after that will depend on how that negotiation goes, and it could it may mean I might end up going to court.
You might not be able to say, but do you have like a bottom line for that? I mean,
I haven't.
Can they buy you out?
Well, I don't know. It's very complicated. I'm learning. I don't know anything about the law before I went through this whole process, so I'm kind of learning it as I go along. Like I'm sort of saying, and what you learn is that there's even lawyers themselves sort of say, well, we don't actually know until what they're going to do, and so it's very hard. It's very stressful because the whole thing's still very uncertain. But I am mentoring
so much time, right?
Yeah, so much time waiting and being very meticulous with the evidence and how you write things, and it's a huge risk because I don't know what they're going to do, but it's likely or potentially lead to a court case which could cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah,
and that's really scary. That's it's been wonderful. I've got some financial support. I feel a lot more secure now that people have very generously given me supported me, which is amazing. But it's still kind of scary. It's like, oh gosh. But it's like I said, it's really strengthened my faith because I've changed. I've become a lot stronger as a person, and as I said, the support has come when I've needed it. So I just have to, when I feel doubtful and think, oh my God, can I really do this? Then I know, well, actually, God's been with me up until this point, and if I keep trusting, hopefully the right thing will happen, and that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, and so I guess you're not really suing them for money, right? You're suing them for.
Yeah, it's
principle, I guess.
Yeah, for justice, really. I mean, it's cost me the damage that's been done to my health, and also the damage that, it's been a huge financial loss to me. So I should be now working. If they hadn't bullied me and they hadn't hounded me off the course, I would be working full time as a psychotherapist now, and I'd be earning more money than I am, and I'd be getting on with my life. So there
getting
is
ahead in your career,
exactly.
getting more opportunities.
So there is a kind of, there has been damage to my health, but also financially, that I've incurred from this. And it's important to say, no, this isn't okay, and you need to make up for the wrong that's been done, essentially. Yeah.
And I don't want you to do this to someone else.
Exactly.
So I have a tough question for you.
Yeah.
It says in the Bible that we shouldn't sue anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I just wonder, I feel like this is we're not supposed to be angry, but there's such thing as righteous anger, and I'm not trying to spoon feed you an answer, but it's not because I'm against what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just really interested in, have you even considered it? What do you think God would think about it? And we don't know.
We don't know.
Interested in, there'll be people out there listening that will say, well, it says here in the Bible you shouldn't sue anyone.
Yeah. I think this was the last remedy. I did not want to go down this route. I just wanted, to speak the truth. And the Bible also talks about, being true to your faith and speaking the truth. There's an image from the Bible of wearing the armour of God.
Right.
I don't know if you know.
I do.
It's one that really sticks in my mind. But wearing all the different armour, the shield of faith and the belt of truth, and being a kind of that really helps me. That's helped me to stay strong. That there's something about, having this protective shield where you're sort of, fighting, and you can be strong as a Christian. So for me, it's about justice, and I think if you go through this process from a place of anger and hate, it will crush you and destroy you because it's too much. You can't hold all that.
Yeah.
But if you think of it as coming from a place of trying to better something and trying to make a change and trying to do what's right and feeling proud of that, and not getting entangled in the pettiness of what individuals have said or haven't said, but just thinking, I've just got to follow this process through and hope something something good will come of it. Then you can do it. That's how you can stay strong. Whereas if you think of it as though as difficult as it is, but think of it positively, that's how I've understood it. But conflict is horrible. It's really not nice. And I think a lot of people are finding themselves in these situations where in their workplace or in their place of education, where there's one very, very narrow view. And what do you do if you don't agree? It's really hard. And people write to me saying, what should I do? And I still don't have I don't know. It's a very, very difficult one. When it comes to faith and politics and culture, it's really hard. It's something that I'm still thinking through in my mind, what would Jesus do, or what's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had another guest that said about what would Jesus do. And we like to say that as Christians, what would Jesus do? But I remind you, it's not what he would do, it's what he did do.
Yeah.
He died for our sin, and so that we are free, and so that we have a relationship with God. And I think sometimes that's not helpful because you're not Jesus. We pray and we hope to be more like Jesus. We hope to live a blameless life. But it's just not going to happen. And I honestly, I'm really encouraged that you're tackling some big political issues that are around, a new theology that as Christians is difficult to align with, and yet still have grace and mercy to say to people, it's okay if you think differently than we do, but you can't discount our faith in that expression of your own theology of whatever it is, critical race theory, transgenderism, whatever it is. And it's like you said, it's really hard because you're standing on political minds and personal minds, and I'm just reminded of a story from this weekend of I climbed up Snowdon with some friends, and they have completely opposite views to me, all Christians, but just believe differently about lots of subjects. And actually, what we've got to do, and what I'm hearing you say is, like, even in conflict, we have to find love for the other person, find peace in Jesus, and try not to do it through anger or even pain, because it's just going to destroy you.
Yeah, exactly. You're the one that ends up suffering if you do that, and everyone around you suffers. So it's very difficult, and it has been very testing.
Well, I'm sorry you've been through everything you've been through. So you have a website, and if people want to know more about the case and critical race theory, keep up to date with your progress, or even donate and help. Like, what's the website?
Yeah, so if you just Google Amy Gallagher Tavistock, you should find sort of news articles about me. I'm raising money on GoFundMe. So my GoFundMe is GoFundMe/Stand Up to Woke. That's what we're calling it. That's the campaign.
It's very political.
It's very political.
I'm sure it'll get lots of marketing. I noticed how careful you were to say that.
Grab people's attention. But you'll see a range of links.
You're playing the polarised politics there.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got to plant your flag.
I'm not disagreeing with it.
But
I'm just saying we're talking about being, immediate.
Yeah. But you'll see lots of links to other interviews I've done where I've spoken about the case, and hopefully not as polarised as... the media space is very difficult to navigate, and it's still something I'm getting used to, but you do have to kind of... it is kind of about grabbing headlines, unfortunately, which is horrible.
Speaking to you today and having lunch with you, Amy, you feel like a really kind, generous, balanced person. And yet, if we want people to click on the video, the title will say "Stand Up to Woke" or something like that. Because you have to grab people's attention. But I hope what they'll see is what I see today, and that they'll wonder about their own religious freedom, and that people will ask questions of, maybe their own values around race and gender and sexuality, and what does the Bible say? I hope that today encourages people to explore their faith and their own theology. And not that we have a particular idea of that, but maybe just where you're at right now, you weren't accepted in an organisation for that, and that's the issue. Not about race, not about gender, not about sexuality, because they're really minor issues when you look at the Bible. The major issue is you have an eternity to choose from heaven and hell. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about the diminishment of faith and the increasing of self. I think there are major issues, and then there are minor topics like that are about
so much
sin.
attention
And all sin is equal.
Yeah, exactly. And, like I've been going to church for a long time now, and I've never heard any of these issues being raised. It's not political at all. It's mostly about love and forgiveness, and that's all. Well,
if there's one thing I could say to the world, Amy, if they're ever listening, is do you think we go to church to rant and rave about the culture? Or do you think...
to get away from it?
I know Christians are like the number one people at navel gazing, so we love to look at our own values and our relationship with God and reconsider any hatred in our hearts. So the idea that our faith is racist just drives me bonkers. It just feels so inaccurate.
It's a very self-reflective, you're constantly... can I be better? How can I be better? It's all, it's about thinking about what you can do for the other person. I think the most amazing people I've met are Christians, and it's such a shame. It's all about unity, it's about connecting with people and connecting with God, and that is the message of Christianity, really, not these, like you said, these minor, superficial...
the issues of sin and the debate of whether they are sin or not. I mean, that's for people much smarter than me.
Exactly.
Or if it affects your area of life,
and it's not for us to judge. It's not my. It's just my relationship with God, and whatever people do that's separate to me, and it's not for me to even think of them in that. It's just not a part of being a Christian. Is these And it's a shame that it seems to be painted like that. And most Christians do not think in this way, or they're more about how can I uplift this person, how can I uplift myself, how can I connect, how can I. That is what it means to be a Christian.
I think there's a minority of Christians that are far right or far left, just like in any walk of life.
Yeah.
It doesn't represent the core of the church or the heart of most followers that are self-reflecting and trying to be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
I wish we could, in the media at least, focus on the major topics, but we might have to fight the minors first.
Like forgiveness. Can we not talk about forgiveness or gratitude rather than these?
Yeah. I mean, that's good. Maybe, Amy, you'll come back and join me and we'll do a whole episode on forgiveness. That would be quite fun, quite challenging as well.
Yeah.
Amy, is there anything, you mentioned your mum, is there anybody you want to say thank you to, that might be listening today that has just really supported you, that you want to recognise?
Yeah, no one's asked me that before. That's really nice. My mum.
What's your mum's name?
Shirley.
Hey, Shirley. Thank you. We love you.
Yeah, she's been really supportive and very, really good. And I would say I've got amazing people supporting me. My legal team, I won't name, but they are brilliant, and my solicitors are Christians, and they're wonderful. They do amazing work. It's been a pleasure to watch them do what they do.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and friends. And I have a very good friend named Lorenzo who's really helped me a lot.
He's in the room next door. So Lorenzo, shout out to Lorenzo. Thank you for all your help.
And of course, everybody that has written messages to me and donated, thank you so much. That has been wonderful. So yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. Amy, I think it's a good point to wrap up today. I just want to say that anyone listening, if you've been affected by any issues today and you feel you want to speak to somebody or you need prayer, remember, if you go on god.tv, we have prayer lines, Amy, around the world, 24 hours a day. They're free and people can just call up. They're not a place for therapy, they're a place for ministry. So we pray for people, and if they have bigger needs, we'll direct them to the correct agencies to get help, because we don't pretend or try to do that. And just a few thank yous for me. So Amy, thank you very much. Thank you for coming all the way to Plymouth. Thank you for recording today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to say thank you to everybody in the gallery, which is Richard and Trevor and Dimitri, who are doing our tech today. Thank you very much, guys. You are always awesome and you always make us look and sound great. So thank you very much to that. And thank you to all our viewers at home, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast. So, we have been spoilt today by getting to hear a little bit about some Christian persecution here in the UK. And I hope that, it just pricks your heart to consider the importance of religious freedom. And we hope that what you've seen more largely is how Jesus has worked through Amy's life, how Jesus has been there, how he's brought the right people at the right time, and that actually that you're encouraged, not depressed by today's podcast, that actually there is a God who loves us, who is there for us in our times of need and can give people like Amy strength when they have none. And that's what we wish and hope for you today, is that you would have hope and strength in Jesus, and that even when there is a storm, that you will have Jesus in your boat, and that you will find peace that surpasses all understanding. So from me and everyone at God TV, we say thank you for watching. Subscribe and like, because the more you subscribe and like, the better, or the more guests we can get. I don't think we get any better than Amy, but the more guests we can get, and the more we can do awesome podcasts discussing difficult topics and highlighting things like religious freedom, race, sexuality, and critical race theory, and standing up to walk, so to speak, to summarise today's podcast. So from all of us here at God TV, goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.